Hey guys, welcome back to the build. So a lot has happened since the last time I left you, and things things got really ugly. So today I'm going to walk you through how I managed to get the tank looking like this, to this, and then to this. So I managed to get rid of all of the rust on the outside of the tank. It was looking really good. So I decided at this point to work on the inside of the tank and to remove all of the rust. And I was planning on using a tank liner kit. Now, if you guys don't already know this, a tank liner is notoriously known for being a massive pain in the ass. And it should be a last resort. Not many people recommend it. If you are restoring a motorcycle of your own, and if you have a rusty fuel tank, most people will just remove the rust using an acid. And there's heaps of different products out there, many different tutorials on YouTube. Some people use vinegar, and that's a really cheap option. Just make sure you do your own research. In my case, the interior of the tank was really rusty, and it's gone to the point where there's a lot of pinholes at the bottom. So in my case, the best way forward was to use a tank liner, and that way I can seal the interior and plug these pinholes. So KBS is an Aussie brand, and a YouTuber who I follow called Brickhouse Builds, shout out to Brickhouse Builds, he uses this product as well, and he's all the way in America. So this filled me with confidence. Starting off, I thought this process would only take me a few hours.
Are you serious?
It took me 6 days. So KBS has 3 stages. Stage 1 is the aqua clean. It's basically a heavy duty degreaser that you mix with hot water and you slosh it around on the inside of the tank, and this removes all of the dirt and poop that's stuck inside the tank. So here are some of my pro tips from my experience. Tip number 1, don't forget to seal the bottom. I know this is very obvious, but yeah, just don't do it. Don't be like me. Tip number 2. AquaClean is designed to eat through any gum or petrol or oils, and this includes the glue that's on the underside of tape. So if you're sealing the bottom with some sticky tape or some painter's tape, it's going to eat through it. So my recommendation is to cut some plugs out of some cork or something and mechanically seal the bottom. Tip number 3, this solution works best when it's hot. Now I mix it with hot water, but we're in the middle of winter and it's like 7 degrees out. So after I mixed it with hot water, the solution still ended up being around lukewarm. If I was to do this again, I would get AquaClean and put it in a hot water bath to bring up the temperature before mixing it with hot water. Now this went by pretty easily. The solution was blue, like Gatorade, and after sloshing it around, it came out like a dark brown. So I knew that it worked. After rinsing everything out, it was time to move on to stage number 2. Now stage 2 in the system is the acid, or as KBS calls, rust blast. The acid is poured into the tank undiluted, and you slosh it around for a good 90 minutes or so, letting it rest on different surfaces in different positions so that it can work on the entirety of the interior surface. After 90 minutes, you drain the acid back in its container because apparently it can be used again. And after draining the tank and rinsing it out a couple of times, the tank was left in a pretty good condition. As you can see in this clip, it was down to bare metal and it looked pretty clean. And honestly, in hindsight, guys, I wish that I had stopped here and left it like this. But 2020 vision, right? So you might be able to see in this footage, there was still some rusty spots along the spine of the tank and some stubborn rusty spots along the bottom seam of the tank. Now, KBS requires the tank to be completely rust-free. Most tank liners do actually, and this is why tank liners are such a pain in the ass. because there's a lot of horror stories out there of people applying a tank liner without fully removing the rust. Now, rust produces oxygen, so if you seal the tank and the tank is still rusting, it's going to form air bubbles, and then before you know it, the inside of your tank is going to be filled with rust and pieces of tank liner which has flaked off, and it takes forever to get rid of it. So knowing this, I decided to pour the acid back into the tank. Now, the KBS instruction says that for moderate rust, it should take around 1 to 2 hours, which is what I followed. And for heavy rust, you can soak it for up to 4 hours. So I poured it back in, sloshed it around for another 2 hours or so, and it didn't really do much. I think at this point, the acid has lost its potency. And honestly, I didn't think that my tank was that bad. So what I decided to do at this point was to use another product. This is a product that I've used before. It's called Evaporust. Now, Evaporust isn't an acid. It's non-toxic, non-flammable, doesn't give off any fumes, and it gets rid of rust through a chemical process called chelation. I'll leave you guys to research that one. Now, since it's not an acid, it means that you can pour it into a tank and just leave it there for as long as you like. So I left my tank in the bathtub filled with Evaporust for 2 days. Starting off, I had 5 liters of Evaporust, and then after 2 days, I probably had like 1.5 liters. What happened was it ate the rust. It ate through all the rust at the bottom, and this revealed more pinholes. So it revealed more pinholes, and the existing pinholes got bigger. In doing so, it started to leak. So after 2 days, it was just dripping Evaporust, and as you can see from this footage, it was pretty gnarly. On top of that, I think I made the mistake of leaving the fuel cap on, and I think maybe the fumes of the Evaporust caused basically the entirety of the inside of the tank to flash rust all over again. So at this point, I wasn't very happy and I was starting to freak out. So now I have a tank which is rusty all over again with massive pinholes. I was getting pretty anxious. Now, I couldn't weld the holes shut because A, I don't have a welder, and B, even if I did have a welder and knew how to do it, the metal of the tank is quite thin, and chances are you just blow a massive hole in it. Also, in order to weld something, you need to completely get rid of the rust. So after some research, I decided that soldering would be the best way forward. Now, I recorded all of this footage, but somehow I lost it. But basically what I did was I got a torch, a blowtorch, some flux, and a massive stick of solder, and I was heating up the tank and the flux and just stabbing it with the solder, trying to seal up the holes. Some holes I managed to fill up quite nicely, but most of them, it was really messy. I was having a lot of trouble with getting the solder to adhere to the steel tank, and I'm not sure where I went wrong. Maybe I went too hot and burnt off the flux. Maybe I wasn't using the proper flux, or maybe I just wasn't using the proper solder. But it ended up being really messy, and even after I managed to plug the holes, as I tried to sand it, it would literally just flake off. So that wasn't working. So quick disclaimer, guys, if anyone is planning on doing this at home, just be aware, okay? You're going to be using high heats, in my case, an open flame, and this is a fuel tank. So please take the appropriate steps and precautions to make sure that your tank has been completely flushed out and that there are no fumes or any traces of fuel. In my case, the tank hasn't seen petrol in over a week, and you saw how many times I've been flushing it with water. Also, Evaporust is non-flammable. So if I was using any other chemical or any other acid, I would have taken extra precautions to remove all the fumes and let it air out for a couple of days. But given my situation and the steps that I've taken, I was pretty confident that the fuel tank wasn't going to blow up in my face. And even still, I was nervous. Do it in a place where you are prepared for a fire if it gets to that point, and yeah, just be safe. Wear the appropriate safety equipment. Yeah, just be safe. So anyways, I was feeling pretty anxious and honestly pretty depressed at this point. Now, I'm not sure if I stress this enough in my videos or if it comes across, but I really love this motorcycle. Like, I really love my bike. And as cliche as it sounds, over time, riding it, working on it, I feel like I've developed a connection with it. And when I think of my bike, I think of it more as a close friend rather than just a bike to work on. I know that sounds really silly, but I also know that if you're a rider, you probably know where I'm coming from. So I wanted to do everything that I could to fix this bike. It was at this stage where I was starting to question myself, and I was thinking to myself, holy crap, what have I done? What if this bike is just completely stuffed and I can't ever ride it again? I know it's just a gas tank, but still, like, even the fuel tank itself, I have a deep connection to. I really like the lines of it. To me, it's like, it's just the fuel tank which I want the bike to have. So it was in a very sorry state, and so was I. So thankfully, Brickhouse Builds uploaded a video on this night. It was a complete coincidence, and it came at the perfect time. So he basically uploaded a video showing how to line a fuel tank which is full of holes. Perfect. So I'll link it in the description below, but basically he uses a fuel liner system called Caswell. Now, Caswell is basically a really thick epoxy. So the advantage of having a thicker liner is that you can literally just tape the outside of the tank over the holes, and then the liner is going to fill the holes for you on the inside. So being so thick, it can bridge the gap a lot easier. Another advantage to this system is that it literally says on the box, you do not have to remove rust and corrosion. In fact, Caswell bonds better to rusty metal. Bingo, guys, this was perfect. And honestly, it came at the perfect time. And if this didn't work, then I don't know what I would have done. It was literally my last resort. So it came at a perfect time. I placed an order. I decided to remove all of the solder. I just used a burner and heated it up, and the solder just melted and dripped off, and it was fairly easy to clean up. While I was cleaning up, the Caswell kit got dropped off, so that was good. So before applying the liner, I decided to try to remove a little bit more rust using a different method. I tried my best to tape up all of the holes using some painter's tape and then duct tape. And then I poured in a few cups of landscape gravel and a few cups of acetone. And then I got to shaking. Shaking. I shook this damn tank for close to 15 minutes, and honestly it was very tiring. I was panting by the end of it. Oh man. So I've been shaking it for around 10 minutes. Probably not even. It's so tiring. Hey, okay. Not bad. Oh, that gives me hope. I'm gonna keep going. Alright guys, I've been shaking it for around maybe 15 minutes. Super tired. And then I spent a good hour trying to remove the rocks from inside. I literally spent 10 minutes trying to get rid of this one last pebble. So for holes this big, I'm pretty confident that the Caswell kit should be fine. All these little pinholes, that is fine. That is probably okay. This one, I think that's pushing it. So just to be safe, I'm going to give that putty another try. This one that smells like pee. I'm going to give this one another try. Plug up the big holes, and once that cures, we'll try our best at sealing the tank. If you guys are going to use this product, my recommendation is to use gloves, and just change gloves frequently, especially if you have this many holes. I went through maybe like 3 pairs of it, and I just assigned 1 finger for each area or for each bore of putty, because you'd find that once you press the putty, it starts getting really tacky and then it'll stick to your finger, and this just makes it really hard to apply the next bore. Use like your thumb and your index for bigger holes, and for the small holes you can get away by just using a pinky, and then you can also use like the side of your fingers to sort of press in. Okay, so after rinsing and completely drying the tank, I was ready to start lining. I was nervous, guys, and I almost changed my mind. I was thinking in the back of my head, maybe I'm rushing. Maybe I should take a little bit more time, pour in some more acid, and try to remove more rust. But then after reading the instructions of the Caswell kit, I realized, no, I'm just scared right now. It should be fine, even if there is a little bit of rust inside. It should actually help it. At least I hope so anyways, we'll see. So the liner is pretty simple, it's just 2 cans. It's a resin and a hardener. Now, this product comes in different colors, and it's a little bit extra to get these colors, but it comes in like a red, a blue, pretty sure like a yellow and a white. And honestly, I wish that I got the white one. I ordered this on eBay and there wasn't really a choice. And I thought that white was the default, but mine is clear. I would have liked the white because it would have just coated everything. It's a bit more visible, and it'll hide the rust. So I'm sure later on down the road I'm going to get some questions about it. But oh well. And I found it funny how so much work goes into prepping for this moment. And it was over in a matter of minutes. I poured in the resin, slowly rolled the tank around, and it was done in 5 or 10 minutes. Wherever I got little drips, I would just wipe it off with tissue paper, and that seemed to work well. And you can see here that I use a paintbrush to paint the interior of the neck of the fuel tank. And this is a mistake, and I'll explain why. I don't have the tank with me now, but I'll try my best to explain. Fuel tanks come in different shapes and sizes, and also the way the cap fits on are also different, right? So if you have a fuel tank which you can screw off, then that's perfect. You can use a paintbrush, paint all the way on the inside of the neck. Just make sure that you don't get any epoxy on the threads. If you have a fuel tank which is like mine and you've got a cap which pushes in, then I wouldn't paint the inside, because what's happened now is the resin adds a layer of thickness at certain points, and once it's dried, I'm unable to actually close the cap. There's like a few points of the opening where parts of the caps have to sort of fit in, and it just won't fit at the moment. This isn't a massive mistake, and I'm not too stressed about it. It just means that once it's cured, I'm gonna have to go back and get a file or a Dremel and just sort of clean it up. So after 10 minutes of coating the tank, it was time to drain the residual epoxy. This kit is designed to coat I think like a 45 litre tank. Mine's only 14 litres, so I had quite a bit left over. I was really tempted to pour it back in and try to get a second coat, but the instructions specifically warn you not to do that. And something to note, guys, is that the Caswell product is very temperature sensitive. So it works between 21 degrees and 31 degrees, I believe. So I had to, that's why I did it inside. I put on the heater and I made sure that the tank was a little bit warm using a heat gun, and that the ambient temperature in the room was appropriate. If it's too cold, then the epoxy will be too thick and then it won't run properly. If it's too cold, then the epoxy becomes too runny and it won't cling to the walls. So just something to be mindful of. So that brings us to where we are today. The epoxy has been curing for around 24 hours. I'm gonna wait a bit more. It says 24 to 36 hours. If it's colder, you wait longer before you can pour petrol in. I can't work on the bike today because I think I can't find the remote to the garage, and I have a feeling that I somehow left it inside the garage. So I have to wait till my neighbor gets back and then I can have a look. So once the tank is fully cured, I'm going to do a leak test. I'm going to pour some petrol in and just pray that nothing leaks out. And if I get no leaks, I'm going to call this whole entire saga done and dusted and a success. This has been easily one of the most stressful moments for me regarding the bike, and I will be so happy to just move on to some more light-hearted content, at least for me anyways. I'm really looking forward to prepping the tank so that I can finally paint it. And because I was so unsure about this tank, I've literally, I haven't ordered the carburetors yet because I was like, what if I order the carbs and then the fuel tank doesn't work? What's the point? I'm just gonna waste money. So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope that you guys are enjoying this build and coming along with me on the process. I'm learning a lot working on the bike, and I feel like as I'm working on the bike, I'm also working on myself. So before I leave you guys, please make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. Let me know in the comments, guys, your thoughts on how I'm going. As I said, I'm learning as I'm going. So this is my first time soldering, first time using a blowtorch, definitely first time using a liner. So I was really nervous. Let me know your thoughts. If you know much about welding or soldering, I'll be interested to learn where I went wrong. But I'm going to end this video here, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.